What is up, my ninjas? I am Strydent, and I'm back with another action figure review. This time we're doing another import figure. It's the Figma Kamen Rider Wing Knight from Kamen Rider Ryuki or Kamen Rider Dragon Knight. Yeah, if you hear some popping, it's, for the night before the 4th of July, they do this thing called Red, White, and Boom out here. So everybody wants to do their fireworks and all that. So anyway, this figure represents my and many other people's favorite character from the series. I like, and I always thought it was strange that they were able to get away with this, but I like the fact that they have the bat motif, which they rip off Batman like wholesale, but only in motif. When you see the two next to each other, they really don't bear much of a resemblance to each other. He actually bears more of a resemblance to Knight from the Batman comics, but dude's personality, the way he fights and everything, he's another one of those, kind of the badass that's written to be the badass, you know what I mean? In Dragon Knight, he was actually a little bit cooler because he was actually a really good fighter. Matt Mullins played him, and dude's really good, really flashy. He's a pretty top-notch XMA fighter. But anyway, I just dig this design. I think the coolest thing about the Ryuki riders or the Ventaran riders is the fact that they all have the same aesthetic all across the board, with those circular pieces sticking off of them and the same kind of rubber suit base, but then they have different armor and different helmets and sometimes different gloves, and that really helps set them apart from one another. This is a Figma figure. Figmas are made by Max Factory, so the construction is a lot different from your SH Figuarts. It's close, but it's very different, a lot different. They're the Mafex figures, like the Mafex Batman and Catwoman and all that, they're made by Max Factory. I think it's either Max Factory or Metacom, but it's the same construction is what I'm trying to get at. You can pull every single piece of this figure off. You can pull his arms off. At every single joint, you can separate the figure. So it's a plus and a minus when you're posing the figure, or if you're playing with the figure, things tend to pop off in kind of a, simple way. But detailing wise, all the details are here, and it's what I really like. Big ups to my homeboy Clarion Prime. He got this for me for Christmas last year. Thanks a lot, homie. Here he is next to Batman, and you can see what I'm talking about. There's really not much other than what their silhouette looks like. There's not really that much to him that looks like Batman, you know what I mean? It's just, at first glance, that's what all of us will say, because we can see where the motif comes from. And it's not horrible, but just look closely for those of you who like to classify things quickly, at first glance, and not actually put more thought into your criticism. They really don't look alike. One thing about Kamen Riders that it makes them stand out amongst all the other kinds of superheroes out there is that their costumes are pretty complex in most cases, and he's no exception. Okay, so here we have Wing Knight, or Kamen Rider Knight, with his cape, which is a dark or black wing connected to his back. He just looks thorough. It's the best way to describe it. Although the cape, I would prefer if the cape draped differently, kind of like if it wasn't connected via some kind of backpack type deal. It'd be cool if there were pegs, up on his collarbone or something, or even on his shoulders, that the cape itself. But this is a design preference that I'm talking. As far as imitating what we've seen in the show, it's extremely show accurate, and it's awesome. Dark wing or black wing looks really cool, stuck to his back. It's weird, but it's cool. He does come with several hands, but my favorite are the hands that allow him to hold his various advent cards. This figure, I think, only comes with one card, but the card is really well done. But I mean, look at those hands, the fingers, everything is just sculpted really nicely. And it's another reason why, it's hard to compare American toys to Japanese toys, when it's only recently that American toys started doing the, switchable hands. You know what I mean? Like your Amazing Spider-Man line. Soda did that with the Street Fighter figures, which is another reason why they were so awesome. But you just don't get that often. You know what I mean? Whereas it's a staple with most import, Japanese figures. Here he is with his sword vent. Sword vent. It's pretty much a lance. I never understood why they call it the sword, but I guess because it's pointed instead of having that dull tip like a real lance, that kind of qualifies it as a sword and not just a lance. So it's kind of the combination of the two. But it's really well detailed, well painted. You can see gradients in the paint. It's not just, one blank color. And it's another one of those things where when you see this on a weapon, you see so many colors, so many different things going on. It's like, why is it we can't get that with our figures here? You know what I mean? Granted, there have to be less of these made than the American figures, like a Marvel Legends or something. But, you can clearly see that the time went into painting this thing. Even though it's not as clean as SH Figuarts, it's damn close. But it's a really well done weapon. It's made of a lightweight plastic, so he holds it fine. Now, these are all the accessories all together. I love the tree that you put the spare hands on. And I love the little baggie that you can put everything in, because it preserves it, especially things like the cape, when they're made of, you have items made out of, soft goods items made out of that pleatherish material, usually heat and cold, and the switch back and forth over the seasons will kind of make those things crumble. That's what happened to my Toy Biz Blade 2's jacket. It stretched a couple times, and it crumbled based on temperature. But as you can see, the hands fit perfectly in that tree, so you always know where they are. Then you have that little card, and of course you got the dark visor and the sword vento. And here is Darkwing or Blackwing, depending on which one you favor or you saw. And he's really well detailed. Unfortunately, you can't really have him in like full-on bat mode, which kind of sucks, which is kind of why, and I'm going to bring this up in more detail, it's kind of why it's the one part that I was disappointed in, one of the parts, I guess I should say, I was really disappointed in with this figure, because I figured there is a wire running through the cape, and I was thinking maybe because the wire is there, you could actually fold it out and it could be full-on wings. But no, you just have the wire in the very bottom part, and they didn't bother to emulate the bat wings in any kind of way. There's nothing that I've seen that you can use to make the Figma version of this figure emulate, Darkwing or Blackwing, in his like beast mode, flying around on his own. He just can be in the cape mode, and that's it. And you can kind of wrap that around Wing Knight if you want to try and simulate the final vent, that corkscrew kick that he does. But the card is a really, really well done detail here. It's actually one of those things where I thought they would cheap out, and they didn't. Now, you see all that, and you say, this is a lot of bang for my buck, But the reality is that the Figma Knights they're mostly cheaper than the SH Figuarts versions. Which one is better? I have right now only two of the Knights. I have him, and then I have Taiga / Axe from Kamen Rider Dragon Knight. I really, and if you've seen the review, you already know how I feel. I love this figure. This was my favorite, I guess this would be my overall favorite design from the show, and I think many people share that. I mean, it makes Wolverine look like a bitch. And then the figure itself is so well done. He comes with all these hands. He comes with 4 cards. He comes with his weapons, like his actual axe and the strike vent. He comes with 2 sets of hands to hold his cards. He comes with 2 sets of display open hands. He comes with fists, closed fists, not for holding anything. He comes with hands that he can put on his belt. And he comes with hands specifically for the axe. I mean, and it's like, wow, they gave you so much that you can actually recreate all the things necessary. And there's 2 sets of holding things hands and 2 sets of kind of open hands. But they all work perfectly. They were engineered perfectly. I have no issues with that figure. That's a perfect figure. A lot of people have their complaints and they want to sound like they're, better critics by saying that, no figure is perfect. This figure here, these SH Figuarts Dragon Knight figures so far, I've seen a handful. Agent O has a couple of them, and he had Zolda, which is Torque in the US, with all the guns and stuff. I dig that figure and I'm going to get him next, but this figure is perfect. I mean, there are his cards and they each have different faces on them, so one is the strike vent, one is the final vent, etc., etc. And then the axe itself is a thing of beauty. Now, my gripe with the axe is the material it's made out of. But as you can see, there's a little slot towards the back, just like in the show. His cards actually can fit in his little belt buckle. You can take the cards out of there and slot them in the back of the, you pull down a part of the handle and pull up the little tiger head, and then you can put them in there, and you close it back. And it closes with the cards in there just like it does in the show. I was so amazed. So amazed. Now, all that coupled with the construction of the figure. Now, the SH Figuarts figures don't pop apart. You would really have to work at popping them apart because there are a couple ball joints in there, but they don't just pop apart easily. They also have the die-cast metal feet so that all the weight is on the floor. So when they stand up, they really stand well. And then, of course, like I said, superb paint job. And then, of course, his articulation is like, it's strangely enough, it's better than the Figma Wing Knight. The only thing that sets you back is the price. Usually the SH Figuarts riders are pretty expensive. They're usually like 30 or 40 bucks and up. But, forget the price, because this guy, I got him for $30-something, so it was a win for me. I was like all about him. It kind of makes Wing Knight here seem kind of not as appealing, But the thing is, if you're a smart collector, you collect based on not only want, but what you can afford. I found Taiga for an affordable price, so I got Taiga. When you compare the two, as far as construction and whatnot, Wing Knight kind of loses, because the Figmas are kind of a cheaper construction. They come apart too easily, and there's areas where you can see that they weren't as tight when they painted this figure as the SH Figuarts ones were. Now, when you look at the cards, you see the one that's raised up on the, I guess that would be, he's on the left-hand side. That one goes to Wing Knight. The one on the right that's flat is just a piece of cardboard. That came with Taiga. Now, after several times of putting that in Taiga's hands, it's going to warp a little bit. The Wing Knight card is actually made of plastic, and it's thick. So it's not bending, it's not warping, nothing. So it's another plus and a pro and con type situation when you look at them. Here's the cheaper figure that they spent money on everything, and they just kind of skimped on just a little bit. They skimped on, some stuff. But if this is the level that they skimp on, I'm sold, because they're skimping in comparison to what we get here. It's a whole different story. I mean, you can barely tell. If I didn't point it out to you, you really wouldn't be able to tell where they skimped on this character. You know what I mean? Because everything looks good. One thing I would say to be careful with, though, because I, ended up suffering this fate with this character is, or this figure, is I usually do the super glue method where you drop a couple drops of super glue in a joint and then you work the joint until it the super glue dries and fills up the space that you were having that was causing the slackness. I did that with his hands and it dried, and I kept twisting and twisting and twisting, thinking, oh yeah, it's actually working. It didn't look like it was broken, and the next thing I knew, one of the hands was broken off because it had fused in the peg. It fused on the inside. So you want to be extremely careful with that. I would use something else, or I would try to put it in and take it out, put it in, take it out. I know it's kind of phallic, but do that until it dries, and then see if it will actually fit properly, or do it the old school way, use some clear tape and do it that way. But overall, this figure is stellar. Is it better than the SH Figuarts version? Hell no. The SH Figuarts versions are probably the definitive versions of these figures. They're just super expensive, and the Wing Knight for the SH Figuarts version is $100 plus, because he comes with dark wing or black wing, and he has effects parts and all that stuff. Now, if you can find Axe/Taiga, get him. Taiga always goes for like 30 or 40 bucks. But he still stands as an example of a perfect figure. You can mix and match, obviously, which is what I'm doing. Certain ones, based on price, I will mix and match. I had to get this version because if I wanted a Wing Knight and I didn't want to pay over $100, this was going to be the one, because it's the only one that exists. Price is a factor, but you can mix and match, because sometimes if you pose them, it's difficult to tell which one is which. The giveaway is in the crotch area for the Figmas. It's made of a rubbery kind of material. So when you have him kind of, with his legs like spread apart, or kind of like kneeling or something, you'll see that rubber part kind of scrunch up. It looks cool because it makes it look more like the suits in the show, but it's kind of annoying because it doesn't allow for natural looking kicks and things like that in wide-legged stances. Okay, this here is an example of where they kind of skimped. The paint, look at the black paint in the little lines, the downward lines or the straight lines going across his visor. They're just shittily painted. But besides that, looking at everything else, all the other line work, all the silver with the cool shimmer to it, looking at his boots and his knee pads and everything else is immaculate. It's clean, it's perfect. It's just on that head that they kind of were like, eh. So, this here is a really, really great figure. I'm really happy to have him in my collection. Figmas, for whatever reason, seem like they're made more for you to pose and then leave them there, and less for you to actually play with. So I don't recommend playing with this guy as much. And, that sucks for me because I like to play with my action figures because they're action figures. But, he is a dope figure. So, if you're going to play with him, be really careful. And if you can find a cool pose for him, he will hold that pose and he will look good doing it, So, this has been my review of the Figma Kamen Rider Wing Knight. Strangely enough, the box actually said Wing Knight and not Kamen Rider Knight, as he's called in Japan, which is strange. I guess Dragon Knight was that much bigger and better. I liked Dragon Knight better. This guy's cool. He's worth the money. $40, that's not bad. You might have to search if you check for him on eBay, but I'm telling you, it's worth it. So, keep an eye out for him. If you see him, get him. I'm Strydent. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Peace.